to Tea Time, which is a conversation with leaders in emerging markets. I'm Samir Shah, and today we have Paula, who is the Investor Relations Officer at Kosan Limited. She has a degree in production engineering from PUC Rio and an MBA in finance from IBMEC. She's an experienced professional with 20 years in oil and gas sector, having worked at Ital BBA for 9 years in various positions, such as head of Brazil Equity Research, head of LATAM Oil and Gas Petrochemicals, head of agribusiness, and head of utilities. Before that, she has worked at Shell for 10 years as business development manager in gas and power and E&P divisions. She joined Kosan as investor relations director for CZZ in June of 2015, also becoming CSAN3 and RLOG3 investor relations officer soon after. In August 2017, she moved to the US to open CZZ's New York office and increase focus on CZZ IR developments.
So thank you very much, Paula Kovarsky, for being with us today and speaking in my class.
Thank you for the invitation.
And the first question, I wrote a case about Kosan long ago, when I remember that Kosan was sugar and ethanol. So today Kosan is a tremendous conglomerate. How from sugar and ethanol has become this very successful company?
Yeah, not so long ago, so back in 2007-8, we were still a sugar and ethanol focused group with an EBITDA of $100 million, give or take. At some point in 2007-8, Ruben Zometa, who's the founder, decided to diversify out of the pure sugar and ethanol commodities roller coaster business. And he started off by buying ExxonMobil's fuels distribution business in Brazil. From there, he ended up partnering with Shell and creating Raízen, which is the largest sugar and ethanol producer globally, actually, and second largest fuels distributor in both Brazil and Argentina. So at this point in time, Raízen has more than 25% market share in fuels distribution in Brazil, and also became the largest importer of ethanol into Brazil, larger exporter of ethanol, and larger exporter of sugar, and larger importer of diesel and gasoline. Later on, we decided to diversify further and also bring a new business into the portfolio that would help us reduce the volatility of our results. So this was when we bought Comgas, which is São Paulo gas distribution business, sitting over, give or take, 27-30% of the GDP of the country in its concession area. And this makes our energy portfolio today in combination with the lubricants distribution business, which was actually acquired from ExxonMobil back in 2008 as well, but not contributed to Raízen, and ended up becoming a business that we grew internationally into Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, and then France, Spain, Portugal, and UK. And then in parallel to that energy diversification portfolio construction, back to 2008 again, we decided to create a logistic alternative for our sugar exports. And so Kosan invested in ALL, which was the owner of the railway in Brazil, the largest Latin American railway company actually at that time. So we've invested. The deal was we would help them the bottleneck capacity, and we'll get a tariff rebate in exchange. Make a long story short, the contract was very punitive on them not delivering, and the end of the story is that we ended up taking over the entire ALL railway in 2015, and this makes for the fifth business, which is logistics in Brazil. And altogether, we are now at a level of $3.5 billion EBITDA under management, depending on the effects you consider.
Excellent. Maybe.
Sure. So in terms of future growth plans, where do you expect the company to go in the future? Where would you play in the future?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we now have two different arms, if you like, energy and logistics.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it's easier to talk about logistics first, in the sense that we've deployed already more than 8 billion reais worth of capex, increasing railway capacity, essentially creating a reliable and efficient logistic alternative to take all the grains produced in the Midwest region of Brazil into the Santos port and to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at any forecast going forward, I think the world actually counts a lot on Brazilian grains production to feed growth going forward. And so, as I said, we deployed 8 billion. We have a commitment of a next 5-year plan that goes from 13 to 15 billion to continue growing capacity. And that's a very important project for us and for Brazil, because the more efficient the logistics is, the more we foster investments in productivity in the fields as well. And this is a very important business for us, where we see great returns and where we want to continue deploying CapEx from a capital allocation standpoint, if you like. In the case of energy, I would say in fuels distribution, sugar and ethanol, lubricants business, it's definitely a more mature business compared to the developments in logistics, but we still see a good deal of opportunities in terms of cost optimization. We actually expanded fuels distribution into Argentina recently. We actually cut a deal with FEMSA from Mexico to develop further convenience stores and proximity stores in our portfolio. And then we have the gas business. There's not much that we can say now, but what's for real is that Brazil is growing long on gas. Presumably, as the country grows long on gas, and exports are probably a very far away alternative, that means the molecule prices will go down, and that will open the floor for new markets like, any examples, feedstock use of gas, more power generation, and what have you. And as I said, Comgas is very well positioned to leverage on that growth, and it's, the only concentrated volume and take-or-pay alternative. So we see growing opportunities in that field, and we're trying to position ourselves to have an important position there.
Perfect.
You are now the director of the office here in the US, expanding, bringing Cosan's tremendous brand here to the US. How do you see this going forward?
I think to start with, I have a very strong conviction that, building that partnership with academia makes a lot of sense, be it because we want Cosan to be better known by the opinion makers of the future, be it because we are, extracting a lot of intelligence and talking to clever people and so on. So I think that's probably one of the most promising ideas that we want to move forward here. And of course, continue to provide transparency and make sure our investors understand what we're doing and understand our commitments, and that we get a better and better shareholder base with people thinking long term as we do.
Sure.
The performance in the stock market of Cosan has been excellent.
We can't complain.
Why is that? Because Cosan is fundamentally a Brazilian company, and Brazilian stock market has been a little bit volatile, although better as of late.
Yeah.
But what does Cosan have that other companies don't?
I don't want to be talking too much, be bragging about Cosan here. And the chart I like to show is a chart where we show consistent EBITDA growth over the last 10 years, regardless of what happened to the Brazilian GDP in that time. I think we're pretty well recognized by being a great team of people, very compromised with execution and doing whatever we promise to do. And I think that's something that you build over time, and the market is getting to understand that that's what we're here for, and we are committed to, especially at the holding level with capital allocation and making sure we generate sustainable value to everyone, right? So I think that's what it is.
You want another question?
Sure. So I guess in terms of foreign investment into Brazil, there's been a lot of companies that have an interest in alternative energy. Does that concern you at all, and what are Cosan's plans to sort of combat that?
No, it doesn't concern us at all. I think, again, we are very well positioned to be in that game. Inside Verizon, which is our JV with Shell, we've done a few small investments in solar, in biogas. Sugarcane-based cogeneration is essentially a great source of renewable energy, which is, by the way, complementary to hydro because of the yearly seasonality.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think we see this as a very important initiative of Brazil, and we see us decently positioned to follow that trend.
If I may finish with one question, this is regarding you as a business leader, as a woman business leader. And we, women faculty, coach our female MBA students. So what is the advice that you would give to these young women who join the MBA program? What has been the secret of your success? The 2-3 advice to the young advices.
What I like to say is, I mean, and that's a bit of a provocation here, right? But I think, at the end of the day, we work in Windows, right? So we play with various windows open at the same time, be it our family, be it our kids, be it our work, be it whatever else we need to do. And sometimes it's tough to keep all the plates rolling. So my advice to you is never give up, and always believe that it will work. Because if you start thinking that it won't, or if you start from the standpoint that you have some sort of a disadvantage because you're a woman, because you have kids, because you have other duties, because, then that's when it won't work. So, just believe you can do it, and then always carry your concealer, because you might not be able to sleep that much. and